Fixtures are expensive mistakes when chosen without strategy. Let's talk about retail zones and buyer behavior before looking at fixtures. Fixtures is a very large category. There's a lot of things we can talk about. This video is not about fixtures as much as it's about prime selling space and how to use fixtures to put most of your product, 80% of your product, in prime selling space to increase your sales and help the shopper experience. Goods to be sold must first be seen, and we don't want to forget that. Retail zones. So products meet shoppers in retail zones. This is prime selling space, comfortable reach to the knees. And this is the buy zone, which is eyes to the waist. In buyer behavior, it's easy to see, easy to reach is in comfortable space. And that's what makes the buyer behavior work better for them. Then the easier to see and easier to reach in the buy zone is what we're showing you in the picture here, between eyes and waist, where it's easy for people to touch and examine things and see them. So buyer behavior, how do they know what to buy? Well, we show them. It's all visual. And good merchandising and display show the shopper how they will profit when they purchase the items. Buyers have expectations and love consistency. Buyers don't want obstacle courses or confusion. You can see in the examples here that we have consistency in terms of how this garden center is displayed. So the buyers have expectations of that. But also we're seeing that the feature displays at the front that attract you in there, they're creative, they're interesting, they're different. They are cross-merchandising, they're pulling things together, they're showing a lot of ideas for the buyers. And that's what keeps it interesting. But still, it's not confusing and it's not an obstacle course. Visual is physical, mental, and emotional. What that means is I see it, and because I see it, I make a note of it, and because of that, I have an emotional response, and I will react one way or another. And based on how I react, I usually have a physical reaction, and then I will make a note of that, and then I will react, and then on and on it goes until finally I act and hopefully in your store make a purchase. So your products dictate your fixtures. If you only have one product, such as a car in a showroom, you don't need very many fixtures. You just need a car and a nice ambiance and a place to display them. But most items are not as big as a car. They need something to either stand on or something to hang from. In the case of a car, it needs a floor to stand on. That's pretty much all it needs. But in the case of a lot of other products, they need places to stand and to hang, especially to bring them up to prime selling space. So in terms of stand, we have things like countertops, display tables, showcases, shelf units, cubes, risers, stands, and the floor, like I've mentioned, and furniture. You'll see in some of these cases here that furniture works really well in small boutiques, and they're practical. You can move them around and do a lot of things with them, especially when they're bringing products up to prime selling space. In terms of hanging, we have racks, stands, systems, forms, mannequins in terms of clothing, hangers, which we all have at home to hang our clothes on in our closets. Free hanging means things that could hang from the ceiling, or they just naturally hang, like in a garden center, hanging plants. Those are things that are kind of, we'd call free hanging. They don't need a fixture as much as they need a way to secure them. And then hardware. So we maximize display dollars per square foot by the right fixtures that are functional, flexible, freestanding and built-in. The built-in option, but freestanding allows you to change up your store more as the years go by. So I usually recommend freestanding in any case. And finished for your brand, and your brand is the image that suits your market, the ambiance or the vibe that you want in the store, and of course to enhance the products. You can see in the illustration I'm giving you here, there's different fixture types. This happens to be an ad from a fixture company. And then I've got my little man in there showing you where waist is and where comfortable reach is, an average size person. And so you're able to see how the shelving is flexible. It's very functional based on the products that are there, because remember I said the products dictate the function of the fixture. Today's displays remember that goods to be sold must first be seen, and I will keep seeing that. Nobody buys anything unseen most of the time. So you want good fixtures. You want fixtures that are the right height. and you want proper function for the fixtures. So look for multiple use, display, storage, and high feature displays. In the case of a fixture like this, it's multiple use because we have prime selling space, shelves open to the customers to help them self-serve, and then we have storage for overstock underneath, and then we have a place on top, feature displays, signs, or overstock. They go above comfortable reach. So my case for bases. This is an example from North York General Hospital gift shop that I was giving them. You can see here we have something that is very basic, 2 sheets of slat wall, and we have bases in the bottom that I was recommending that were 2 feet 18 inches deep, and they were 4 feet wide to fit in that space. They have toe space on the bottom for more comfortable shopping, and they have recessed hardware on sliding doors. So the doors don't open and close. They're not going to get in the way of anybody, a patient of any kind, or a wheelchair. And they have hardware that's recessed or even just finger holes to open and close and shut them. So everything there is more safely done. What's interesting is when you look at prime selling space, you can see that the prime selling space for a person in a wheelchair is not that much less. In fact, it's more than half the prime selling space for a person who is standing. So that's an interesting thing, but you'll also notice this area is difficult to reach for wheelchair occupants as well as for mobile people who have to bend over that far to get stuff. So prime selling space is really critical, and you want your fixtures to support that as much as you can. So there are standard systems with flexibility with accessories. An example is pegboard. Another example is grid wall, and you can see I've just shown you little illustrations of the wall and the accessories that you can use with it that help you to do all sorts of things. So this is where flexibility comes in. And of course slat wall, which is basically my favorite because I work a lot with gift and tableware, garment and fashion and accessories. I work a lot, and these work really, really well for those. And they're reasonably inexpensive compared to built-ins, and they're also more available for people. So the other custom systems that are built in are more of the outrigger system, which is affixed to the wall. The shelving and the hangrails are still adaptable and adjustable, or some alcove shelving, which you often see in premium stores where everything is built in ahead of time. It's all designed, and everything's designed to fit perfectly to show more stuff in less space and still have it look good. So here's a semi-custom system that I modified for a client. It was a ski shop in a resort. This is the before picture. You can see nothing is reachable where the hats are concerned, where the skates are concerned. You have these things too high, you have these things too low, and then you have the front facing, which is okay if you have different sizes of the same thing. What we were able to do here is, firstly, one of the things I love to do is to do the best we can with what the client already has. He already had this slat wall, so we're going to use it. The next picture shows how we modified that. We modified it by having him build these dividers 4 feet apart so that he could create little vignettes and he could separate different things in different places. And then he could use these hangrails that would show off product hanging top and bottom. And then he could do the dress forms, the mannequins, and the shelves on the brackets, and then the hat, to just create these little front-facing feature display cross merchandising. And that worked out really well. And then I want to point out right in here on top of this fixture, compared to what he was doing over here, you can see that we've got these forms. I talked him into purchasing those, investing in those. We've got a hat, we've got a scarf, we've got the goggles, we've got the gloves here. So really in that one little space there, right at eye level, right in the buy zone, we've got a really cool little display happening. And of course, in this case on this, after we also have a hat rack that suits the hats and pulls them all down off the top of the wall within comfortable reach where people can actually try them on and walk over to the mirror, see what they look like. So group and space based on color, pattern, and style. And stop the eye by framing the groups. So this is what we're doing in here. Even a fixture on the floor, when it's got sides on it, is going to frame whatever you're putting in there. And the shelves also, top and bottom, they frame what's in the shelf and on the shelf. And that really helps the eye to focus in on what you're showing. Fixtures put products in prime selling space. Now here's an example of slat wall and some accessories and how I've used them. Here we have tops, we have bottoms. They're at different heights. These are different heights, so we've kind of created an area in here. We've left a space in between them. Again, that's that framing. And then we've got glass shelves with the brackets, and that's what's working here. And on my next image, you'll see that we also have these acrylic shelves working in here for the wallets. We have grab hooks for the items that are down here, like these scarves. We have pegs for the socks, which is what her sock department was. And then up here, we've got the dress forms. Over here, we have the necks, the easels for the jewelry. We have special stands for the bracelets so that we can show them off over here. And then we have the heads that we can put the hats on. And we have the hat into the slat wall. More in less space when you use the proper things. So here we have slat wall again. We have a custom made semicircle shelf, and that's actually secured with an item like this, which is an adapter, so you can make your own shapes of shelves and adapt them to fit on slat wall. And then in here we've got pegs, these little pegs like this. They come in different sizes and lengths. And then here we're just folding items onto the shelf. And then we have here the styrofoam head. I have painted them with a skin color, and we've also bought these little hair pieces. We got them at dollar store. They just tuck in the front of a hat or a scarf, and they look fine. They just kind of set it off and make it look a little bit more real. And you can see how many products there are in such a small space, about 18 inches by 18, a foot and a half by foot and a half, and taking up very little floor space. And we actually have 6 of these on the entire shelf. The next example is this one, using these forms right here, using those forms front facing again. You can see we've got a color pattern style theme happening here. We have a slightly different theme happening here, and the pants have all of the size markers on them here, and that are these little guys. And then you can see too that we have a bar here. This is an arm. They actually refer to it as an arm. And here we have, this is an outrigger, so it has its own hangrail attached to these sides. But when we're only using half the space, that's when we want a hangrail. So these are great fixtures. Again, everything you're seeing is brought into prime selling. Fixtures make feature displays better because when they're higher, you can put things on top of them that are seen from a distance. In this case, the jean department, the cubbies were quite low so that we could put these stands on top of them to show the different jeans, and then we could pair them up, cross merchandise them with the top parts of the dress forms. And that really made a nice display, feature display in the jean section. You can see too that all these little tags you're seeing on the front of the jeans are what we call sizing strips. You can buy them from the fixture companies, and that allows the customer or the clerk to go and pick the right size without having to open them all up and look at the size and try and fold them again, which is something you don't want to do. Here's an example. There's my client. She's got her ladder. Again, we were changing these up, which we did every 3 weeks. We never left them even more than a month. And most of the customers loved coming in and seeing what was new and what we had done and what we had put together. So here again, you can see a rack that's here with the belts hanging on it. And you can see the different things that are happening here that are from a fixture store. Here we had some fun. We took the legs and we turned them upside down because part of what we were doing was also featuring her socks that month. And then we had 2 of the dress forms here. And again, you can see the sizing markers on the hangers here that are pant hangers. And you can see the sizing strips on the jeans. Fixtures that work for pop-ups. So pop-ups are important too. And in the case of things that are portable, you can hang them, pre-hang them, and then roll them into the venue wherever you're going. This was an example of the fashion store at a ladies' convention, and they only had one night. You can see that this represents all the boxes we brought the stuff in, and this is just a small skinny piece of slat wall that helps to show the socks and the gloves. It was a winter time. With these little stands show the bracelets. We have some jewelry items here. We have a dress form here. We have a tall head and a short head here, again showing the scarves. And then we are color coordinating them. We're creating, also we brought in a mirror because if they're going to try them on or look at them, they want to. In this case, we don't really have any garments. There's one garment here, but it's mostly accessories because those are easier to show, to set up at a venue like this. And then this is actually a lawn sign. If you've seen lawn signs, this is a lawn sign with her logo on that we just set there. So that's how all of that's working. And in this case, each vendor was given a table and 2 chairs, and that was it. The rest of it was up to them to do. So this is what we did, and I think it worked out really well. More than meets the eye. Sometimes the fixtures are there, you don't really notice them or see them that much. In the case of one of them is the boot inserts that hold the boots up, and that's what you would use here on these boots, or boots that are made out of really lightweight material. And here's another example of a purse stand that's holding the purse up, and you can see by the customer that's standing back there where his eye level is, where his waist is, and where his knees are. And you can see that a lot of this is right in prime selling space, definitely comfortable reach. Even down here, they're not on the floor, they're on a stand that nests, and it's slightly pulled out from the one above it to make it easier for the customer. And then fixed shelf hacks. Sometimes you have a shelf that's not movable, it's not adjustable. In other words, you have to work in the space that's already there. So when you do that, still keep a theme in each shelf. Fill in spaces either hanging things, stacking things, or using risers, examples here, or easels, things that will hold something up and stand it up so it's more visible. When you look at this little example, you're going to see that I am using basically floral containers for risers. That's what I'm using here. I'm using one here as well. And then this tucks in here so that it makes it a little bit more, the display's more dense, but you can still see the product and reach in there. And then these are taller versions of these. Again, you can see what we're doing in here as well. So that all works. So we have a tall plant, short plant, and I have risers back here with 2 more short plants, same variety as this one, so that it fills in the space visually, but it's the same as what's up here. So if they want one of those, they're probably going to take the one that's at the front. Here's another example. And if I can go back one. Here's another example. And I love this example because we're actually showing acrylic shelving on the slat wall to act as a riser to put things back in that space and to fill it up with items so we can have a lot of product in a small space. Here you can also see that I'm using a pot upside down here for a riser, and right here I'm using another container for a riser. So then you're seeing a little bonsai here, here, and here. This filling in the space nicely with the taller items here, shorter ones at the front. And that is a little trick of the trade that I use a lot where slat wall is, because the main shelves are almost 18 inches apart. And then back to this one. This is a case where we had this big box and I needed to use it as a riser for her showcase window. But then inside the store, I had all this box empty space. So here I began to put these things in. You can see this is a container here. There's a container here. One is laying on side, one is standing up higher. Then there's another container in here acting as a riser for these little plants here. And I was looking for a plant that would fill in here. One about this size would fill in here. And then you had really created a nice little venue, and the space is all nicely filled in. It's a nice display. It's cross merchandising, but it's sending the theme, and you can tell the theme was Valentine's Day. So make your fixtures earn more square feet with intentional placement of products with the right fixtures. An example here, and maximizing your display dollars, I wanted to point out that dress forms aren't always just used in fashion stores. I've seen many used in kitchen stores where they sell aprons, and they do other things with the dress forms so that they can be very creative, and they definitely bring things up to prime selling space. So the anatomy of a hospital gift shop is what I want to talk to you about for a minute. Retail Transformation Case Studies by Healthcare Edition is coming up for a playlist, so keep an eye out for it. I will be coming back to this video when it's ready, and I'll put a card in here that links to it. You can see here the after of this hospital gift shop, and it definitely, the reason I'm pointing it out here is because it was all about fixtures in these stores. You can see it's all about the fixtures, and it's about the fact that we had ceiling to floor glass, and with ceiling to floor glass we had to be even more careful about the fixtures we used to see through, to see in, and yet at the same time have enough place to put all the products. This is an example from another point of view. You can see the fixtures are all in here. They're ready to be stocked. They had just had to be dusted and cleaned before the volunteers came in. And here's an example of what it looked like the first time, because it was Christmas when this hospital gift shop opened. And that will be part of what we're going to show you as well. In the meantime, today's displays are tomorrow's dollars, and the right ones start working today. So I wanted to offer my help by offering you the result of placement by organizing your retail space has these benefits. And they're all listed here in the Organized Retailer, which is my PDF book that is available to you. And it's Transforming Velda's Store. And it's great what she said here. She had more productive staff. She had organized supplies. She had engaging displays, streamlined customer service. And we go through all of that. We go through the principles of it in there, as well as the changes that we made in her store and some of the before and after pictures. So the visual VisiQuad method for shops and showrooms and pop-ups is an operational merchandising support, on-site hands-on display direction, merchandising decision-making, sales-focused display execution, feature area optimization, and will be available at todaysdisplays.com. So thank you for watching, and video number 5 in Prime Selling Space is coming up next. Talk to you soon. Bye.